Good morning. Good morning, grand rising, happy presence, whatever, however, as long as you know that it's an honor to be present on a planet called Earth. We are living in the rhythm of the God within in the key of G minor, as Archbishop George Augustus Stalin teaches. We must know who we are, why we are. You know, I was reading, of course, I still come to a setting that's a Christian setting, but we are going back to, in fact, I've been tasked to put together something for, ancient African religions and stuff like that. But it only goes back where I'm asked to go. It goes back to, Ra, Ptah, and ultimately what they call Osiris or Asar. So when I think about these things, I look in the Bible, and they have the story of Jonah, was what we call our first reading in our stuff, and then we have what's called in the Gospel, Mark 1. And we're taught that when we think, as we think, so are we. Whatever we do, it reflects who we truly are. However we respond to circumstances and conditions is who we are in that capability in that moment of time. Meaning, a lot of times I was listening to some stuff, reading some stuff about what it means to be awoken, and there's a lot of that on Internet 9, particularly, I've always said it's not in the metaphysical stuff, and so, which even before I saw it from that perspective, I had saw introspection. So I've been on introspection for a while. Attached to Michael Jackson, Man in the Mirror. But I just from reading in the Bible a lot that tell you that you have to search inside yourself, that you have to do whatever is done inside of you is done, da-da-da-da-da-da-da. The difference is in the traditional teaching of the Bible is that we're to be dependent on everything outside us, opposed to becoming dependent on everything that lies inside of us. And, I know you say, oh, that's fallible. Life is fallible. But the thing is, until you get yourself together, and it's not momentary, temporary, as we adjust and make adjustments and want to change, then change come about us. When we begin to change, change is not momentary. If that's it, it was just a feeling. But awakening is when I learn better, I do better. Awakening is no longer is I that live, but now is Christ that liveth in me. See, that's awakening. So awakening is telling yourself that you have always been better than what you've been taught you are. That you have always been worth more than you think your worth is. And that in the sight of the Most High, the Creator, the G-Force, whatever you want to say, you have always been that apple. I look at, again, in the story that, a part of our reading, which is Jonah, the 3rd chapter, the 1st through the 5th verse, then the 10th verse. And, it talks about when, Nineveh in Tulsa, and then in the chapter before it talk about Tulsa, but it talk about Nineveh, and it talks about when a person was given an assignment to go and do something. Jonah was given an assignment to go to Nineveh, but opposed he went to Tulsa. And from what they say, then he was swallowed up by the fish, by the whale, and he spent 3 days and 3 nights in the belly of the whale. And so when that took place, when that happened, then Jonah, when he came out, it says that he made 3 days journey in 1 day. And so I was watching something on History TV that said that, there's a constellation or something that's shaped like a whale, and that was what he was sucked up in outer space and all that stuff. So, there's a lot of information out here. But the something that we could get from this story is that when we are prompted by the great energy, by the Most High, by whatever you want to say it is, when you are prompted by that to do something, when you have been put on a mission, when you have been tasked to complete something or to do something, you must get what it is and get it done. So what's happening is too many of us have fallen for anything. Like, we like to point the fingers at Christianity, Islam, and Judaism, which that's the 3 newest ones that's in here. But it goes all the way back, because if you look, I'm about to say something here. If you look back with what they was talking about, Ra, Ptah, and Osiris, going back to what's called the first dynastic era, first dynastic era. But anyway, the first one, this is where this has been believed to first be introduced to mankind. A worship as such, a God, a supreme being, a Most High, like a God. That was in the first dynasty when that was introduced. But there are things that happened pre that. So when you talk about ancient study, then you have to go back to the West. But anyway, so in this, if we know that, if we can consistently agree that there is a great force, an energy, a God force, and stuff like that, that guide us, that lead us, that we are part of. What's up, my brother Neil? That we are part of. If we could disagree, continue to agree on that, then when we look back again at the first dynasty, where it was from Ra to Ptah, from Ptah to Osiris or Osar. But I'm reminiscing on, on Western Africa, where actually prior to Egypt becoming a place of significance, it was West Africa called the Ghanaian province, not just Ghana, but the Ghanaian province. It was about 11 other countries. So anyway, so in that time, and when trade was brought from west to east, not east to west, so it wasn't until, some time that east became more prominent than west. In fact, if you know anything about the pilgrimage of Mansa Musa, it was because they did so much trade with the east, he wanted to see who was making them so rich. And so he took a pilgrimage from west to east, because the trip used to go up the Niger River and then cross the Sahara Desert. But anyway, so when we start thinking about all that stuff, when we start just looking, and so we know that we have partial information, even when we call ourselves going back. Because again, I started out by saying the book of the coming forth of day and night. They call it the book of the day, but how can it be dead and we still living? And it's used in pieces all over everything. But anyway, the book of coming forth of day and night. It's, I was reading something that said that it's the oldest book right now that's still in circulation known to man. Now, so when we get this ancient information, when Brother Brian London, good morning, when we get this information from, you know, and this is where we have to seek God. It says, seeking you if you'll find, knocking the door shall be opened, and shall be given to you. When you begin to comprehend this level of what they call faith, what we call faith, then we know that God is not separate from us, but we are God and God is us, because it says we made in the image and likeness of God. So it's not until I see that in myself, then I can speak to the mountain and say, be thou removed and cast to the sea. It's not until I see that I can, you know, speak. The Bible says, men speak, men live, men speak, men die. If I don't see that I have that power, then I can never invoke it. So what happens is a lot of time we put things out that we don't realize have power, and when it come back to us, we wonder where it come from. But we are told, as you sow, that should you also reap. You reap what you sow. And so if you reap what you sow, if what I put out, I get back in. If I'm living in the rhythm of the God within and all that stuff, then that means that there are a lot for me to do. There are work that I have to do. There are things that that's expected of me. There are obligations that I have to see that those who don't see like I see or what I see is still, you know, is ready for what is to be for them. You know, so do we get, let's say, when we learn better, we do better. But also it says that we should learn, say, freely is it given, freely shall it be given. I mean, freely is it gave, freely shall it be given. In other words, when you learn something, then you're supposed to learn better, do better. That's what it says. It says when you learn better, you do better. So what's better? You know, what's better? So what's better? You should know the truth, and the truth should make you free. That you know when you've been summoned by the Most High inside of you to create a great work. You know, what's better, to know that or not to know it? You know, and this is a lesson that I continue to learn to today. Oftentimes, when the first verse speak, and we ready to do that, then we always start second to start doubting it. That's where the confliction coming in. Because if God, the Bible says, as you think in your heart, so are you. If God says, my desire to live in your heart, so if God is in our heart, and as we think, so are we, then we have to move godly. So if I'm not moving godly, then is the God, that the God of all creation, the God of the universe and everything, that the God of all that we know, is that God present in me? Am I allowing that God to operate in me? Or because of my lack of comprehension of what it means to be in right relationship with that God, hinder me from maximizing my potential in that God? And so we are not taught, we are taught that almost every day you got to ask, no, that's not consistent. Consistent is once you get it, you got it, and you'll never lose it. You cannot use it, but you won't lose it. And when you start seeing it from that perspective, then when you need to come up, because I like this, what I'm doing. When I come here, I read a little bit of the scripture, because you know this, again, it's still a Christian setting, but I obviously have stepped out of Christianity, but I still read it, and I guess I start some type of meditation on it. So when I come here with no script. I come here with no script. I don't know where I'm going, but I know, you know, the stories, and then I know, you know, for years I've been doing this, but I see obviously the stories from a different perspective now. Again, when I see Jonah, and I see Jonah and then the story of Jonah, the belly of the whale, and all that kind of stuff. When I see that, you understand? When I see that, then the lesson for me is when I am not in tune and in touch with the God within, then there's nothing but chaos. That's when I'm living the belly of the whale experience. Because I do not know, because the Bible said, I know the voice of my sheep, so do my sheep know my voice. So if that's the case, then why am I not? Listen to this. If that's the case, why when God speaks to me, I don't move? Why when God speaks to me, I don't comprehend? Why when God speaks to me, I'm confused? Now, if God know my voice and I know God's voice, that means we have a relationship. And, you know, in relationship, just like you, your children, and anyone else, when they speak, you know, so how is it, why do I have to always fall short? Why is it always me not being connected? Why, you know, why everything revert back to negativity opposed to a learning, a time to learn. It's time to learn how to hear the voice of God. Is it always audible? No, sometimes it's just come in as a thought or whatever. And so when I get that, then I start moving and I say, okay, now I see. Okay, so now I come out of the belly of the whale, I better comprehend the work. So now instead of a 3-day journey, I'm going to get there in 1 day because I get it. So I don't have nothing to deter me. I don't have nothing to sidetrack me, nothing, because I get it now. I went into a place. See, and the whole belly of the whale situation is about going into a place to get where you are. Because we both know, I mean, we know that the soul God is being all this. But if you spend 3 days in the belly of a whale, that acid in that and ate you up, you done been digested and you on your way. You understand? You're on your way. So what happens here? So anyway, so once I get what I'm being told, once I comprehend what I should do, now my job is to do what? To save myself, to go earn, you know, money for myself, or to go out and spread the truth to people. Now, in this situation, in this Jonah situation, in Jonah 3, the people, it said that they got it. And because they got it, a calamity that was going to be brought down on them was diverted because in the end they got it. Now, they didn't get it at first. And then secondly, they send you, isn't it amazing how the universe or God or whatever will send you to your enemy to bring them light, will send you to those who may have tried to do you something, to give them light, to help them to see what it means to be connected to the Most High. And this is what this story is based on. And so this is why supposedly he was going away from where he was told to go, and then he was threw off the ship and swallowed by the fish and all that stuff. But again, if you watch history and all that stuff, it's all happened in the sky, not in the ocean, but nevertheless. But so when you become that person, when you become that one that like you did that, and okay, now I get it. It's so much easier to go and do that what you're supposed to do. It's so much easier to go and give. That's what you're supposed to give. Let me say this to you. And this puzzles me about people. So-called successful people are afraid to teach someone how they became successful, are afraid to teach someone how to get on the journey of success as if it's going to affect them. If you know who you are and whose you are, if you know who you are and whose you are, whatever you have, can't nobody take from you. You can share it, and if you're doing what you're supposed to be doing, can't nothing come against you. We have to stop being afraid to help people become better. We must stop being afraid to help people to become better. And so, okay, just like if you move into, with that Jonah, with that, now you move into Mark 1, 14 through 20, and it's about, okay, so Jesus, Joshua, Haru, supposedly went, by the Sea of Galilee, saw two brothers fishing, and told them to throw down their nets and follow him. He gonna teach them how to fish people. Now, this is something that's used in the case to validate the exploitation of people. Now, remember, they wasn't performing a hobby. They was making a living. They were fishermen by trade. Now, for someone to call you from your trade, says that, look, come on, I'm going to teach you this, and it's going to come out better. How willing are you to go? Be real. Let's be real with it. It's not easy to do, but here's the deal. Now, because in the trade, you have to eat, you have to take care. They have families that depending on them and all this stuff. So why would someone walk away from that they know, or today, why is it so hard to get people to work even when you want to pay them? Now here, in this story, supposedly people threw their life down because after he picked these two brothers up, then he went down the way and picked up two more brothers. So now he got 4 brothers, 2 families, no telling how many people that was dependent on them to perform their craft that they eat and can survive. And now they just threw it down to follow. Now that's a good story, but it's hard to believe. Being a man, myself, being a man that had a wife and had children, those folks depends on. Then back in this day, they couldn't get on food stamps. And, I know some of these guys teach that, they had a lot of money amongst them, but that's not really the truth. So the thing is, so what's the gist of the story? What can I get out of this? What is there for me to learn? That my craft is important, but it's also important for me. Listen to this, that my craft is important, but it's also for me to understand, overstand that I must be Sankofa, that I can't forget about those who are suffering. This is the example. I laugh, bear with me, don't hang up on me, bear with me. I laugh at, these people with these political parties crap. Talk about, they want to make us socialists, and and it's crazy to me. Because then they'll sit there and say, God, and I profess my faith in God, and that stuff. But if it's so-called Christianity, any religion is supposed to be a socialist organization. It's supposed to be where the have bring to the have-nots. It's supposed to be a place of sharing and caring. It's supposed to be a place where people not judged by what they have, but by who they are willing to allow themselves to be and become. Even Dr. King said, judge people by the content, not by the color of the skin or whatever, but by the content and character. So when I think about all that stuff, and I think about all, the great brothers, the Honorable Marcus Messiah Garvey, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, the Honorable Malcolm Malik Shabazz. When I think about Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and Medgar Evers and so many of our great ancestors and many, many more, Dr. John Henry Clark, Dr. Ben Yakima, these people, that I started listening to and learning some of the stuff from. When I think about all that stuff, these people, they're the example of people that did that. But now listen to this. They still had to work their craft, but they also understood or overstood that there was a part of that they had to share with people that couldn't afford to pay for it. So Dr. John Henry Clark, Dr. Ben, for 60 years, those guys taught for free. They taught courses for free to people that couldn't afford to pay to go pay and learn it. These people that they came up in traditional settings, but they grew out of that, but they knew what it meant to share their God selves with humanity. They knew what it meant, family. So when are we going to get whatever you know and you show you know, and not that stuff, that poison that we've been pumped with our whole life. But when we start doing introspection, coming to, as in metaphysical, they say, to understanding, I call it introspection, understanding. When it comes to understanding, then we come to overstanding, then we profess and proclaim that we get. I overstand it because I get it now. I get it. First, I was trying to understand it, but once I begin to understand it and I really start digging into it more and more and more, now I overstand it. I get it. So now that I get it, I realize that there's a responsibility that lies in getting it. This don't come free, but it's not necessarily your money. So this is what happened. And this, when they say these guys dropped down in nets and went on and followed. Now they tell you do that, come bring all your money to the storehouse. But listen to this, people. You show me where the money is going into the so-called church and is going out into the community. Show me. Even these churches, let me show you how messed up our people have become in the head. Even these churches that's building these multi-million-dollar complexes that have membership, that's contractors, they won't hire the contractors in their midst. They have to go out and get contractors, that don't look like them because they don't trust the very people that bring their money to the collection plate. This is not how this thing was designed. This thing was designed that the local community come together and take care of itself, that we find everything we need inside of the local community, you can't function putting everything outside of you. And this is what we don't get. This is why I can't get behind like Franklin Avenue and Beacon Light and all these places, because you all are directly connected to the KKK. You all are bringing our money outside our community that will never come back. So we have to get back into Garveyism, where, Don Marcus Garvey taught us how to put our money in our pot and that money circulate. So Nation of Islam was formed out of that. All that we know, Black Wall Street, all that, these things, the ideology for these things was formed out of Garveyism. Why? Because Garvey understood that to have power and control over your community, you have to put your resources you have to sow your resources back in. So we, as a people, have become so ingrained in slavery and this turn of the cheek and we all brothers of Kumbaya. But you should tell me this. How many of these white churches, come to our communities and look for their contractors? Come on now. So, and it's not about hate. It's about survival. This is what I'm saying. So, with these people, he picked these people. These so-called 4 people was the first 4 people selected in this plan. And so, but they had to get it, but they had to know that their families was going to be taken care of. They had to know that the community was going to undergird them. See, they had to know that things was going to be put in place. We can't walk away powerless and just speak power. And that's our problem. Everybody is kings and queens. Everybody. And the truth is, everybody never was kings and queens. And you have to look at how the whole system of king and queens came about. But everybody should want to be goddess and gods. That's who we are. So until I turn back my eye unto who I truly am in God, I am God. My wife is goddess. She is mother of civilization. I am the seed of civilization. Until I turn back into that natural way of thinking, then I'm going to always be lost and look for what's better for me in someone else. It was better for me in someone else. So look, let's get this, people. I'm coming to a wrap here. So Jonah went out, didn't understand, came to understand and began to overstand what he was tasked with, went out, accomplished it. Here, Jesus Yeshua Haru understood, began to understand his purpose and whatever, got people to buy into it, and, and that went that way. So now, what about you? Isn't it time for us to get out of understanding and begin to overstand? This is the awakening that we need. Like, we, black folks are not short on faith and spirit. We just directed in the wrong place. What we have to do is divert it back where it's supposed to be. So this is why the Bible tells you that the energy don't go out and return back void. When you put energy out, when men speak, men live, men speak, men die. When you put energy out, it is, listen to this, when you put energy out, it is reciprocated somewhere and it is sent back. How many times you think of someone and they call you or something, they get in touch with you, something, you be like, wow, damn, mess your head up, but it's real. So anyway, and all that get it overstanding. And then once you get to understanding, and then you get it, you process it, you put into practice, practical application. You have to put into practice, because just learning, see, again, I say the Bible like that's what the Bible says some are forever learning, but never come into the knowledge of the truth. And so when you start learning the truth. And let me tell you, you can learn a lot of our truth in this Bible because it's our story, just recycled. But what it's done, they took us out and put them in, but you could see where it happened there. But nevertheless, it's your responsibility to get an understanding of where you are. But even more so, if you start overstanding where you are, that's when no weapon formed against you can prosper. Then you have to get an understanding of who you are. See, the who you are, why you are, and the purpose I am. God, and there's, I say, my goddesses and my gods, mother of civilization, queens and kings, if that's what you want to be. But don't forget, queen and king is good, that's understanding. But when we overstand and we become God and goddesses, that's the hardest thing for people to embrace. But the Bible tells them that. To say a Bible that they say, that's the word of God says, isn't it written, your Lord, your God? Say, you are gods. But the Bible tells them that, but they can't get it because they're God. The God that they're allowed to rule over their life, that live on the planet Earth, that don't look like them, that killed their way in. To say you can't say that, you can't believe that, and thus, because they tell them that they can't say it, they can't believe it, they refuse to embrace it. But like, again, I know I speak a little bit outside of what's general in the Bible, but my information comes from the Bible because that's where I've been doing this 22 years. But I just see from a clear perspective. Again, I ain't threw it away. I just learned how to use it the right way. The right way, because I know now the voice of God, and God knows my voice. God and I have a relationship. So that's why it says you think it in your heart, so are you. It's as when men speak, men live, men speak, men die. It's not what go in you that defile you, it's that will come out, because that will come from the heart. God says that God want to live in your heart. So God is everything you are, God is. God bless you, God keep you. This is truly my prayer. Assalamu alaikum, I say peace. Namaste. Thank you for coming.